hands-on projects, which I think are the heart of the course, and we'll start with ED30. Just scroll down a bit and you'll find all the hands-on projects. They're down here. So ED30 is here. And this shows you what you have to get is a Linux virtual machine. And by the way, I updated this, if I refresh it, to warn you, we really want an Intel processor. You could make, if you have a Mac M1 M series, you can run Linux on ARM and it'll run fine, but it's not what you need for this course. You need to get the Intel version. So let me just point out what you have to do. You go to here, here's instructions. Now the way this works, you have instructions, and when you're done, you'll find a flag. This is how you get your points. Once you have it installed, you get a screen, and whatever's behind the green mask, that's the flag, the hidden word. And you feed it in a scoring engine up here to get your points. But let me talk about how to do it. Now here, the process to do it is on another page, local Debian 12. And so you need to have a hypervisor. Now, if you have an Intel processor, which means you have an older Mac using Intel before the M series, or you have a Windows. All Windows PCs use Intel processors. If you have one of them, then you install just VMware. VMware Workstation for a PC and VMware Fusion for the Mac. However, if you have a, and that's fine. And here's the instructions how you can, and what you can do then is just download a pre-made Debian machine and run it. You don't need to install it or anything because there's a repository of pre-made machines. So all you have to do is unzip it and you'll be logging in with the username of Debian and a password of Debian. So that is one way to do it if you have a PC or an old Mac. If you have a newer Mac, the Mac M1, M2, or anything in the M series, then you're here. That's what I had. You cannot use VMware because VMware is a virtualization platform that always uses your real hardware, your real processor. You have to install UTM, which is, by the way, a shell for QEMU. QEMU is the open source product. This UTM product can change the processor. It can emulate different hardware than what you have at a speed cost. So then you can make this one, what you'll have, and when you do that, you'll have to create an emulated machine, and here's the instructions to do it. You can emulate ARM, this should be AMD, emulated AMD 64 machine, yeah. So you'll have to download, now you're gonna have to download an installer and go through an installation process, and I can help people do this. There we are. Here's the network boot one for various hardwares. What you need is the AMD one. The AMD one runs on Intel hardware. Even though you have an ARM processor on this machine, you need the AMD version of Linux. And then you can install it in this emulated environment. And what you will end up with is what I have here. This is a headless Linux server. It's what I always use. It doesn't have any graphics at all or any graphical desktop. So now I put my credentials to log in up there, student and password. All right, and this thing is being slow. All right, so let me point out something. However you get your virtual machine running, you should learn how to control it with SSH, because using the built-in, what you see right now coming up, this is called the console. And the only purpose of this is to control the machine, like start and stop it and deal with emergencies on it. Doing work on the console is for the birds because you don't have scroll back, you don't have copy and paste. It's very annoying. It is not intended for routine work to be done in this environment. What you do, and this is true of cloud servers too, if you got a cloud server at Amazon or Microsoft Azure or anything, the only thing you do here, you can log in, and my credentials on this one, I had to choose when I installed it. This is student, and p@ssw0rd. Okay, I'm in. I've logged in. Now, I could, in principle, work right here, but it would really be a drag. I can't change the font size. I can't scroll back. I can't copy and paste. It's very limiting. So what you do, the only thing you do here is IPA to find your IP address. Now, the first IP address is the loopback address, and that doesn't go anywhere. That's just an internal address usable only for internal processes. If you want to reach it from outside, you need the public address starting with 192. So now that I have that, and I have the username and password, I can connect with an SSH client from the outside. In Windows, you use PowerShell. In a Mac or Linux, you just use a terminal. And now you do SSH, the username, which in my case is student, at that IP address. and that IP address was 192.168.64.65.4. There. So I have a username at the IP address of that machine. Good. Now it asks me for a password. Okay, now I can control the machine from this command line environment. I don't have a mouse or a desktop, but I can run programs from here, and I can do everything from here, and now I can copy and paste into this window and scroll back. It's a much better environment than this, and if you use any cloud servers, this is how you control them. You use a command line control, and you connect to them with SSH. So it's a very good thing to learn if you haven't already gotten used to doing this. This is the way all the pros do it. It's the way we're going to do it. Yeah?
Can you also use the command window on Windows?
Yes. No, not the command window. The CMD window doesn't have SSH, but PowerShell does if you have the latest version. If you have older PC, you might have to install a third-party utility like PuTTY. PuTTY's been the standard for years. PuTTY gives you SSH connections, but about 3 years ago, Microsoft finally got the memo and put SSH in Windows. So it's included now in modern, if you update your PowerShell. That's a good question. Anyway, so now I'm in and I can control my machine. So and to get your flag for this one, all you have to do is execute this command. And when you do, you'll get a response. And the word hidden behind the green bar is the flag. So how you turn in the flag? Once you get a terminal running on your Linux machine, you see that this is ED 30.1. So you turn in your flags right here, enter flags. You go here. It's going to ask you to log in. Let me log out first. Okay. All you do is you log in with the last 4 digits of your student ID. And a couple of students have created accounts here. They're using some other name, which is fine. Once you've made an account, just keep using the same account. So I'm going to use this account called test. You would use whichever one matches the last 4 of your student ID. And if for some reason you're not on the list, you can register another name here. Pick a name and use it. This is how your points will go. Don't split your flags between 2 accounts or it'll confuse me. Anyway, so now I'm going to choose test, which is the one I made for demonstration. All right. Now I can enter a flag. So I have to figure out the name. This is ED30, and the flag is ED30.1. So you have to choose the series, which is ED. And then 30.1 is there. So now you put in the flag. If you get it wrong, it'll tell you you're wrong. When you get it right, you'll get points, and you'll appear on the scoreboard. And as you can see, a few students have already got some points. And there's my test account, has some points. So these are the points you're getting. This is the problem where most of your points are going to be. There's nothing but this and quizzes to get points and a final exam. So the total, I'm going to have my AI agent. I'm just training it right now. My AI agent every hour is going to take these and update them in Canvas. So your Canvas total points will reflect your points. And your goal is right up here. There, that's how many you're trying to get a grade in the course. So you got all semester to get there. And if you do the projects I recommend, you'll get there, but you can also go off track. And this is why we were talking before we started about Capture the Flag contests. When I had to take an official online training course to teach online here, and I'm ignoring everything they told me. Everything they tell you is wrong. I don't know why they have education departments and education degrees. Everything those people tell you is always wrong. So one thing they tell you is only let them see the first week for a week, then close it and only let them see the second week for a week, so all the class has to move at the same speed. Now that is torture for me and most of my students, because my students are at different levels. Some people are very confused beginners and need to have extra time to get started. Other people are experts and they want to zip halfway through because they already know half of it. So in the modern training, everybody uses Capture the Flag contest. In the world of security, it's universal. For this reason, everything is just available. You can do any project you want. If any of these are too boring or too difficult or they don't work, you can just skip them and go to another one. There's a ton of extra. All these extra points here. So you can zip ahead to wherever you want to go. Anyway, all right. And let's see, I haven't got the AI agents on there. I'm going to add them. But anyway, that's ED30. That will get you started. Let me make a separate video talking about the AI agents, though, because I did mention that, and I expect to start you on that today. I'm going to add it to this page. Let me stop.